Welcome into the Alabama Football Report. I am Tom Downey. I am back as the host, at least for the time being. Chris has stepped away to take a job outside of sports. We'll always love him. You might even see him in the comments occasionally as well. But with Chris gone, I'm stepping in to handle the hosting duties because we are in the middle of the transfer portal, and there is a lot of stuff going on. If you love the Alabama Crimson Tide, show it by liking today's video. I know if Chris is watching, he'll like it as well. Show us your love by liking the video on today's show because there is a bunch of transfer portal stuff we have to get into over the last couple days, hours. It continues to be a wild transfer portal timeline. Texas has unfortunately flipped NC State transfer Hollywood Smothers from Alabama. That one hurts. Maybe not the biggest surprise. As soon as he took the visit, it was like, okay, that's not a good sign there. I'm pretty darn disappointed because I thought Smothers was really good last year at NC State. Averaged 6 yards a pop plus over his last two seasons. Explosive. Offered a bunch of passing game value as well. For a running game at Alabama, offensive line obviously a huge factor in that was not living up to expectations at all and was frankly kind of mediocre. Adding Smothers and pairing with Crawl, that was going to be a great 1-2 punch. He's supposed to have a huge season and be awesome. And then he decides to go to Texas because he committed but didn't sign. And this is kind of why I'm starting to hate the transfer portal more and more, frankly. That leaves Bama with these running back options. Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley, AKD, or true freshman Crawl, and Trayshawn Brown as well. I think somebody else is needed, which would not be a surprise if and when the Crimson Tide are able to land another running back. There are two names we'll get to later on in today's show. But overall, it's been, especially without Smothers, pretty disappointing results so far in the transfer portal for the Crimson Tide. If you value the transfer portal rankings, or at least gives us like a general guideline for the talent in versus talent out in the portal, Alabama ranks 60th in the On3 rankings. They're one spot behind Ohio State, one spot ahead of NC State. I don't think it's been up to the expectation that we were all hoping for. So, grade Alabama's transfer portal moves so far. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Two back targets to keep an eye out for. One is Mekhi Frazier, who took a visit recently with Alabama, and the other is Christian Clark, because Texas got two of the top transfer portal targets, and Clark was like, okay, I'm out, which I get from that perspective makes all the sense in the world. Let's go to Mekhi Frazier, who did a little bit of stuff last year for Michigan State. Wasn't crazy impactful, just under 4.5 yards per carry. But I do think there is some untapped potential here as part of a Michigan State offense that, wasn't that great. It's also telling how many top programs are after him. In fact, it's like the top programs right now. Alabama is in the mix. Ohio State is after him, which they probably want someone to pair with Bo Jackson, unless the Bo Jackson portal rumors end up coming true, which would be a great target for the Tide to go after. Indiana, Texas A&M, a lot of teams in the mix there for the freshman or sophomore, back. Certainly a name to monitor after a step forward in year two. Christian Clark is next up here, and this is still very early in his process. He is not only just at the portal. He'll probably take his time there. There will be plenty of teams in the market for him as well. I think still 2 enter was the official timing there on Christian Clark. 55 carries, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns. Got a really good, majority of those reps in the bowl game, the Citrus Bowl. 20 carries, 105 yards, and a touchdown. Wasn't overly involved in the passing game. Texas was trying to pitch Clark on. You can still be a contender to start. I think hitting the portal was the right move for him. I think this would be one to certainly go pursue for Alabama. It is still early, though, in that process. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend, hoops action almost every night, it never stops. And Prize Picks lets you take control. Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you may have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. You got football action tonight, by the way. Here's one of our Prize Picks lineups. You can do the power play, bigger payout, Flex play, only got to get 3 of those picks right to pay out there. Aaron Rodgers, more than a half interception. C.J. Stroud, more than a half passing touchdown. So that is the Demon and Goblin line. The Rodgers one is harder. The Stroud one is easier. Jalen Warren, less than his rushing yards, 55.5. Will Anderson, more than a quarter sack. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Links in the comments section and the description of today's show. I'm kind of being the bearer of bad news today between Chris leaving and all the transfer portal stuff. Here's some good news in the portal. Former Mississippi State defensive tackle Kedrick Bingley-Jones has committed to the Crimson Tide. Look, the numbers do not pop off the screen for the once North Carolina product. He's got 1 year left of eligibility, by the way. More of a run stopper. I will say, if you want to look at like PFF, for example, he was their highest graded interior defense lineman who actually played real snaps there, which I don't think should be overlooked. He's 6'4", 320 pounds. He's played in the SEC. This is a depth addition for the Crimson Tide to help out along the interior of that defensive line. Given his play style, what the Tide have, I would bet that he lines up a lot in that defensive tackle role for Alabama. He can do nose guard stuff. He can do some of the 5 technique as they get to 4-man fronts, etc. But I would say kind of defensive tackle with a run-stopping focus will be his main area of addition and help for Alabama. Who is your favorite transfer portal addition so far? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Would have been Hollywood, but that's no longer on the option or in options. Let me know in the comments instead. As we broke down previously on the channel, Ty Simpson announced he's declaring for the 2026 NFL Draft. However, there are still teams who have been trying to get him to transfer per AL.com. They report at least one program has offered Simpson a deal that could total $6.5 million to play in 2026. According to Once with Direct Knowledge, 3 SEC schools have presented offers of at least $4 million and more for Ty Simpson. Now, if I'm going to guess the teams that were bidding, Tennessee is an obvious fit. That was obviously heavily rumored before he announced his intentions to declare for the NFL Draft. LSU, who did land Sam Leavitt earlier today, that was an obvious one. Miami has always been pretty hard after the transfer guys did with Carson Beck, almost like the exact same thing, essentially. Ole Miss had been involved, potentially a little bit as well there. It does seem like Simpson's going to stay in the draft, and I think that makes sense for him. In this year's quarterback class, even with Trinidad now kind of being forced in, kind of feels like it's going to be a top 3 pick for him, or among quarterbacks, not top 3 overall. Said 24/7 Sports reports he's not going to waver on that decision to turn pro, which I think makes some sense. The good version of Ty Simpson, up until about Halloween, looked like a top 10 pick, looked like the number 1 QB. Afterwards, not so much, and was banged up and injured and all those things I acknowledge there. Is worth mentioning that we have a lot of tampering going on in the portal. It's how it goes for everybody. Like, he's onto the portal. How is he getting $6.5 million offers? We need Nick Saban back as the czar of college football to get some semblance of regularity and organization and structure back. But different conversation for a different day. Leaves the 2-man quarterback battle that will get going this summer and fall for Alabama. Who starts in spring? Who starts a quarterback next year? KR for Keelan Russell, AM for Austin Mack. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Couple transfer portal short updates I want to mention. I know Chris mentioned this on Friday. Vibes are certainly trending in the direction of, hey, Ty Hayward is going to end up at Alabama, which kind of brings it full circle for him. Keep an eye out for a video tomorrow, a short at some point as well, if and when Hayward does end up back, original commitment, at Alabama. As expected as well, Keon Keeley, also kind of full circle for him to go back to Notre Dame, kind of fun enough with the flips and whatnot. He has committed to Notre Dame, so notes on both of those fronts for Keon Keeley and Ty Hayward. Now, we are approaching 37K subscribers. We're 154 away. We're still going to have videos for you nonstop here on the Alabama Football Report. So if you love the Crimson Tide and you want updates on Alabama football, you're in the right spot. Hit that sub button right now. Again, I feel bad for all the bad news, but it's how it goes sometimes. Wide receiver movement now starting to shake out here. Cam Coleman did commit to Texas, so Alabama could not quite land him. They're clearly banking on a bounce-back season from Ryan Williams. Isaiah Horton then, very quickly, ended up at Texas A&M, which it's kind of felt like he was going to go to the runner-up of the Cam Coleman sweepstakes there. One receiver who visited over the weekend is Noah Rogers, the NC State and former Ohio State product, as Alabama, I think in particular, looking to add some depth to this wide receiver room. No, Rogers' numbers were not eye-popping by any stretch of the imagination. Although I do think, by the way, this is not relevant for Alabama, but I do think C.J. Bailey is low-key going to be a pretty good player, and I think is certainly worth monitoring, draft-wise, if you care about that. But Rogers was one of the top wide receivers for NC State. He was third in yards, only the 2 touchdowns, though. 33 catches, was also third for the program. Tight end Justin Jolly was heavily involved in that offense there. I think add some depth to a group that needs it because right now they go 5 deep. They've been hit so hard by graduation and portal stuff. Banking on a big-time bounce-back season from Ryan Williams. Rico Scott, who, now that he stayed, looks even more important there, by the way. Latsier Brooks, I am super excited for. Derek Meadows, Adarian Morgan, I think will have, steps forward. For freshman, the young guy who didn't play really at all last year, at least didn't play a lot last year. But more depth is needed because you're one injury away from being super thin. But I wouldn't be surprised if Morgan gets to have a pretty big role in the offense in year 1.